One of the ways that politics makes us stupid in America now is because every fight, instead of being a principled fight, instead of saying to Bernie Sanders, by what right, by what constitutional authority do you set a drug price? Saying to AOC, by what constitutional authority do you take 70% of a person's income? At what point is he working for you, working for the government instead of for himself, and how is that in keeping with the American founding? Instead of having arguments like that, we're always having these pseudo-moral arguments. And I call them pseudo because none of us is righteous. No, not one. That's why they're pseudo-arguments. The person accusing you is taking the moral high ground by accusing you, but does he really have the right? Joe Biden, I kind of feel for Joe Biden. Joe Biden is, I think the guy's a dope. I think he is AOC disguised as an old man. I think maybe you never see them together. That's why they're probably the same person. But I think that he's being hit now for being creepy Joe. He puts his hands on people. He puts his hands on people's shoulder. So there are all these pictures of him putting his hands on people. And now I think she's a Las Vegas assemblywoman. Is that what she is? Lucy Flores. She's Nevada legislator, Lucy Flores. And she has now said that Joe Biden Me Too'd her. Here she is describing what he did.
Well, it happened also suddenly. Anyone who's ever been at a rally recognizes that there is just chaos. There's a lot of energy, that everyone's running back and forth. Eva Longoria was there. We were all lined up next to the stage. Eva was in front of me. Joe Biden was behind me. I'm kind of preparing myself to give these remarks. It's the very last days before the election. And very unexpectedly and out of nowhere, I feel Joe Biden put his hands on my shoulders, get up very close to me from behind, lean in, smell my hair, and then plant a slow kiss on the top of my head.
Okay, so it's yet another one of these new Me Too stories. You know what's interesting? What's interesting about this? Biden put out a statement, and he said, "In my many years on the campaign trail and in public life, I've offered countless handshakes, hugs, expressions of affection, of support, and comfort, and not once, never, did I believe I acted inappropriately. If it is suggested I did so, I will listen respectfully, but it was never my intention." Interestingly, one of the most famous pictures used to make Joe Biden look like this creepy guy was with Stephanie Carter, who was the wife of, I can't remember, he was a top Obama official. And at his appointment to his post, there's a famous picture of Joe Biden coming up behind her, whispering in her ear, holding her by the shoulders and keeping his hands on his shoulders. And this is Ash Carter, Secretary of Defense. There it is. Ash Carter, Secretary of Defense. And this is one of the famous pictures of him. And she writes a piece saying, no, he was not doing that at all. He was not, being creepy. I was absolutely wiped out. I was exhausted. It was a high pressure day, and he was comforting me. And he said, "Thank you for letting us use your husband. Thank you for loaning us your husband. And it was the right thing to do. And I appreciate it." Now, here's the thing. Flores, this woman who's making this accusation, is a far leftist. Biden has a reputation. Recently, he's been sounding like one of these identity politics buffoons, but he has a reputation for being an old-fashioned Democrat, a kind of more moderate Democrat. And by the way, a white man who might actually have some advantages with Trump. I think Trump would kick him down the street, I bounce him down the street like a basketball. I don't think he would have a problem with him. But there is a strain of thought that he is lunch bucket Joe. He's the working class guy. All those people who turned out for Trump in the Midwest are suddenly going to turn over to Biden, even though they have jobs now, even though the economy is better now. Somehow that that illusion is going to take them over. But Flores is a political operative. She's a political operative. And I really have to wonder. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, here's just a quick clip. Elizabeth Warren chimes right in. She goes right for it.
I read the op-ed last night, I believe, Lucy Flores. And Joe Biden needs to give an answer.
Should he not run as a result?
That's for Joe Biden to decide.
So Biden is polling much better. Elizabeth Warren is a second-tier candidate. She really blew herself up with I guess she shot herself in the foot with an arrow over the Pocahontas fraud. But she, this is a hit job. It's all about the politics. It's all about the power, just like it was with Kavanaugh, just like it was with Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas. It's not about morality because none of us is righteous. That's the problem I have. Of course, there are actions that people take that are immoral, but what the left does is it tries, Shelby Still is right about this, they try to make every action about their moral high ground. What we keep saying and should be saying is that freedom is moral. Freedom is moral. You don't have the moral right. I saw a comedian say this. Bill Burr, I think it was, said this the other day. Where do you get the right to take 70% of my income? He put it in moral terms. This guy, Pete Buttigieg, I believe it's pronounced, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He's a gay guy, but he is getting some traction, basically as a kind of all-American gay guy. He's an Episcopalian. He's a believing Christian. He's he puts himself forward as being kind of in the middle ground. And when he talks, he starts to talk about freedom. Watch this. This is kind of a magic trick he pulls. He starts talking about freedom and then not. Play the first cut first, obviously.
I don't think we need different values. I believe in the values of this party. That's why I'm doing it. That's right. But I do believe we could adjust the way we talk about it just a little bit. And it's one of the reasons why you always hear the word freedom on my lips. Because we've allowed our conservative friends to get a monopoly on the idea of freedom. Now, they care about freedom, but they care about a very specific kind of freedom. Freedom from. Freedom from regulation. As though government were the only thing that can make us unfree. All right. But that's not true, is it?
See, he knows that the values, that there's a value difference. He is trying to take our value. He knows that our values have appeal. And he says, well, they only have one kind of freedom from. And to some degree, that's true. It's not just freedom from government, although laws are there to restrain the government, and the government is one of the most powerful actors. In fact, the government is the most powerful actor. But I've said before, the government sometimes has to act to restrain powerful corporations from taking your freedom away. But it is true that we believe in freedom from. We believe in the freedom to be left alone. Now he redefines that. Here it is.
We know that your neighbor can make you unfree. Your cable company can make you unfree. If they're telling you who you ought to marry, your county clerk can make you unfree. You're not free if you're afraid to start a small business because leaving your job would mean losing your health care. You're not free if there is a veil of mistrust between you as a person of color and the officers who are sworn to keep you safe. You're not free if your reproductive choices are being dictated by male politicians and officers. So don't let anybody tell you that the other side is the side that's got a handle on freedom. We are the party of freedom, and we shouldn't be afraid to go out there and say it.
Well, you can go out there and say it, but it's just not true. It's just not true because every type of freedom he describes is really the freedom to overpower someone else, to demand that that the labor of a doctor somehow belongs to you, to say that the life of a child, an unborn child, is yours to take away. I mean, that is a kind of freedom. I mean, it's freedom if I don't like my wife anymore and I want to throw her out of the car, that's freedom. But that's not the kind of freedom we talk about. What we talk about is the freedom to be left alone and to have responsibility for one another. Your freedom ends at the other guy's nose. It's always been true. You can throw a punch, but the minute it connects with somebody else, that's where your freedom ends. And so he's redefining it, but at least he knows, he's attuned to the fact that we have a values problem, and the values that the right is defending, if it would defend them, if it would come out and defend them, those values still exist. Is this country going to be socialist? Is Donald Trump wrong? I think Trump is not a guy who's on either side of this. He's not a guy who plays the moral card, and he's not a guy who plays the principle card. He's a guy who plays the reality card. He says, look, I made the economy better. You have a job now. Vote for me. That's what he says. He says, this will work. I'll do this. He doesn't really consult a set of principles. He consults his gut. And so far, he's doing a good job. He is. He's doing a really good job. I'm impressed. I didn't think he was going to be this good. I think he is. But I do think that there are people, the people who write, the people who think, the people who talk, who have to remind people of what our principles are, who have to remind us of what our values are, that we value freedom, that we don't value, we value the freedom of the other guy, the guy we disagree with. We can value the freedom of a gay person and also value the freedom of the cake baker who does not want to attend his wedding and celebrate that wedding for religious reasons. We have to celebrate his freedom, because if we don't celebrate the freedom of the people we disagree with, we're only celebrating power. If we don't celebrate the freedom of the people we disagree with, we're only celebrating power. Because when he's in power, when he's got the gun, when he's got the government, what argument have you got left that's going to keep him from taking your freedom away? These principles defend us all. They defend us left and right. The principles defend us all. And that's what makes them more moral than the moral faux pas of the moment. That is what makes the argument so much deeper than the events of the moment and then the issues of the moment. And that's why we shouldn't let politics make us stupid. Just as a perfect example of the way this morality stuff blows up on people, take a look at what's happening in Hollywood, my hometown. Take a look at this new boycott. This is, what's her name? Alyssa Milano and 49 other celebrities threatening to boycott Georgia. Why are they threatening to boycott Georgia? Because Georgia is trying to pass a heartbeat bill that will outlaw abortion the minute a heartbeat can be detected. And this includes guys like Sean Penn, what a moral man is he, right? This is the guy who still hasn't apologized to Venezuela. He still hasn't apologized for Hugo Chavez, and by the way, if you're holding your breath waiting for the Sean Penn apology tour, you can forget it. I mean, this is the Hollywood that Harvey Weinstein once said. Remember this? Harvey Weinstein said, Hollywood has the best moral compass because it has compassion. We were the people who did the fundraising telethon for the victims of 9/11. We were there for the victims of Katrina and any world catastrophe. Now think about this. This is Harvey Weinstein talking. He was talking at the time that Roman Polanski, remember old Roman Polanski, had been detained in Switzerland. Why? Because he was a fugitive from justice. Roman Polanski raped a 13-year-old girl. He drugged her, he sodomized her, and then when he knew he was going to have to pay the price for it, he fled the country. So there's no statute of limitations on that. There's no statute of limitations for fugitives, right? Because you never paid the price. So when he got picked up in Switzerland, it was Harvey Weinstein, it was Meryl Streep, it was Woody Allen. They all showed up with their petitions now. By what right do these people come after Georgia? By what right do they use the incredible power of the economy to crush these people's right to self-governance? Where is the morality in that? But nobody's even arguing about that principle. We're arguing about abortion, but this isn't about abortion. It's not. I mean, you know how strongly I oppose abortion, but that's not what it's about. It's about the right to Georgia to self-governance. It's about the right to Georgia to self-governance. The only reason Hollywood comes to Georgia to make its movies is because this town is so lefty. Hollywood, where I no longer am, but where I usually live, Hollywood is so lefty, so unionized that they can't afford to make the movies there. So they go to Georgia so they don't have to pay the unions when they're making their movie about how great unions are. I mean, that's really true. They go to Budapest to film things so they don't have to pay the Teamsters while they're making a movie about Norma Ray and how wonderful it is that she unionized the shop. That's the problem with these moral arguments, is the people who are making them are no better than anybody else. It's only the fact that their finger is pointed that distracts you from them and puts the onus on the other guy. If we make the argument for our values, if we make the argument for our principles, if we make the argument that through our principles we will reach a higher stage of progress and morality, I think we can win this fight, but the outcome is by no means certain. I'm going to be here for 2 weeks here in Hillsdale. It is absolutely beautiful. I hope you will join me, and I'll tell you all about it as things unfold. Be here tomorrow for more. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show.